So I'm going to use these pieces to form a star in this template. I want you to watch what I do. When I have finished, I would like you to put the pieces together in the exact same order. So the first piece, and okay. So once I did that, I'd let her look at it for a few seconds, and then I'm going to take out all of the pieces and lay them exactly how I had them before, from biggest to smallest. Hang on, sorry, I have to remember which one. There we go, that one. And then this one. Okay. So now you place the pieces in exactly the same way I did. Think before you lay the pieces, because when you have laid them and let go, you cannot take them out and reposition them. But you will get 3 tries at this, okay? So ready, go.
Do I have to do it the same order
Exact
you did
same
it?
order, yep.
I'm glad I'm not doing this.
Yeah, it's definitely something that as a therapist, it would come more natural once you've done it, but it's, yeah.
Don't take your hand off.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's hard.
Yeah. So I can't like change my mind?
No, yeah.
Mm.
Why can't I see?
And this one you would be, you would be typing or timing, and say they didn't even pick up one of those pegs after 60 seconds, we would discontinue. Give them a little bit of a break, and then try and do it again. So you were able to do it, and you did do it in the correct
Yay.
order. So on the sheet, let me see, in the delayed part, when we reach that, it will have you, so for the novel task, it does ask, did they lay it in the right order? So you did follow all the colors and then in the right position, and then you have a max score of 17. So you have to think about both order and position when they're placing it. Okay. So, and it also says in here that sometimes someone will maybe, you were doing it a little bit, but I know that you don't have visual spatial problems, but say they like laid it over here, you would remind them, no, like in the template, I guess. And they said if they continue to do that, that you should look into visual spatial, assess them later for that. Okay, so then we would demonstrate the whole procedure again. I would demonstrate, you would repeat another 2 times, but you did it, so we'll move on.
So if you do it correctly, then you don't do it again.
It actually says in here that even if you did, you would. Yeah.
So you make somebody do that 3 times.
And it's probably better because after, in a few minutes, I'm going to ask her to do it without me demonstrating at all. And she has to remember the parts and put it back in there. So, I'm done with that. Okay. So, and then this is the appointments delayed recall. So if, when I set that timer for 25 minutes, say it hadn't gone off yet, it encourages me to just engage in conversation with her until that goes off, but we'll just pretend that it went off. And so it says that I have to wait about 5 seconds if you don't automatically ask me those 2 questions, okay? So say the ringer goes off.
When will I see you again next?
Close, yes.
And then when is this session over?
Yes. So say that they had no idea the alarm went off and they were still just engaging in conversation. I can say, what were you going to do when the alarm rings? And then if you were only able to answer one of those questions, I can prompt and say, what else were you going to do when the alarm rings? And they even say that sometimes in here, people get confused and think to ask a question and then go and find their belongings. So you can say like, no, you were actually going to do something else when the alarm rang. Can you remember what it is? So you redirect them to the questions and not finding their belongings. And so then this part is the story, and this is a delayed recall. So I will say, do you remember the story I read you earlier? I would like to know how much of it you can remember now. Tell me as much as you can.
So there were twins after 20, or twins separated at birth. Oh boy. Jenna, I believe, was one of them. Maybe not. So they were separated at birth, and after 20 years, the one girl, I believe Jenna, was asking for her birth certificate and found out that she had a twin and went looking for her. And when she found her, it was like looking in the mirror. That's all I got.
Okay. Yeah, so, and again, if they didn't get it, I could start it with, after 20 years, identical twins, and kind of prompt them into it. They have the scoring, and I thought it was in here, but it might be, right, yeah, so right here. So it tells you that for the 21 ideas that are within each story, if they recalled the word perfect or use a close synonym, they're going to get full credit. But if the ideas were partially recalled, or say they had like an approximate synonym, that's when you would give them partial credit. So you are essentially looking for them to repeat as much of it word for word as they can, which is pretty difficult, I would say. And then if you use a prompt, it says do not give credit for the first two ideas. So if I had to say after 20 years identical twins, these two you would not get credit for, but you could potentially get credit for all the rest. And then we would do the novel task again. This time I would set it up for you and ask you to do it without me demonstrating. So I'd say, do you remember a little while ago you made a star? I'd like you to try this again from memory, putting the pieces together in exactly the same order. And then we would do the first and second names, delayed recall. So do you remember this person's name?
Catherine Taylor.
Yes, that's
Very
perfect.
good.
And if she didn't, I could say her first name begins with C. And they do say that Kathy is acceptable for Catherine. And again, for her last name, if she didn't get it, or say she said Turner for Taylor, I would say no, but it did begin with a T. And then, do you remember this person's name?
Henry Fisher.
Yes, perfect. And the same thing I can give, it says right there the prompts that I can give her. And then for this, the last one is the belongings delayed recall, so I would just say we have finished the test.
Can I have my hair tie and my watch, please?
Yes. So I would wait for 5 seconds to see if you would spontaneously ask for those two things, which you did. And then if you hadn't, say you were just like, okay, it's perfect, it's done, I can leave, I would say you were going to remind me to give you two of your things. Can you remember what they were? And then I would ask you, since you got them correct, I'd say, can you remember where I put them?
The closet and the cupboard.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, does she have to go retrieve them?
In here it says that you can or they can,
Okay.
but just them knowing to ask for it and where they are located is more important.
Great.
And then that's the end of the test.
Now, as far as the scoring, do they give you any interpretations of the scoring at all?
Yes, so I really like it because for here it has all of the subtests. And you can put down their raw score, and then you can use the appendix in this manual to convert it to a scaled score. And what you can do is put the scaled score on this nice graph, and it shows you like what they're having difficulty with. So in the verbal memory, visual memory, spatial memory, and within here it kind of gives you an idea of what that means and some like treatment.
And look at the perspective memory. We were talking about that in class. Remembering what you need to remember.